Hello and welcome to the Ka0s Tournament Podcast. I am Fetch, and with me today is Neko.
Hey everyone.
Kuma.
Yo.
And a special guest, an abnormal from our standard crew. We've got Jacoby.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, the boss's boss is here.
Jacoby is our producer for Day of, so all of the Day of stream stuff is him. He also does a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, as well as is a pretty experienced pilot. You've done a lot of tournament stuff.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of tournaments all the way back to when time twisted games was still a thing. So like 2016, 2017,
Jeez.
2015.
Get off my lawn.
a little while.
Got another old man here.
We're all old here.
Kuma, you're not alone anymore.
Finally have someone to use my senior discount with.
Word.
Okay, enough of background. Let's get into this. We're doing breakdown of the October Ka0s Charity event. Quick thing. Same day as this happened, there was a big in-person invitational. So a lot of the pilots that are more well-known were not able to attend this. I mean, I get it. It's a huge charity event versus going and actually being at a massive in-person thing. Like, I understand charity, fantastic. Raising money for charity is cool. But if you have the opportunity to go and play an invitational, yeah, take it. But with that being said, that will adjust some of the faces that we'll see. It's not getting rid of everyone that we know. But, for example, Wounded Satellite was not here. They were in person instead.
Yeah, we still had a pretty good turnout, though. Over, 100 people, more or less, that came. I was impressed by that.
Yeah. And we raised $2,000 for charity. So that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
So we raised $2,000 for MagiKids. If you're not aware of that, you can go and look up MagiKids. It's an organization that gets kids into magic, as the name might suggest. But that's not what we're here for. We are here to break down the tournament. So let's get right into this with the top 16. Starting at the bottom, which I believe is Heliot.
Heliot Sun Crowned, yeah.
Wait a minute. That's not Michael Levine. What's going on?
Heliot is not a deck that I was expecting to see in the tournament, much less perform in the tournament. So I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't know what the pilot was expecting either. They named this deck White Trash by Dixnormus. That's a name. Dixienormous.
Is that a troll that actually worked out? Like, what?
Yeah, actually. They're actually a pretty skilled pilot, to be honest. I've played a few games with them. And honestly, this looks like a pretty solid standard mono white list, to be honest.
I guess it just shows how the One Ring is crazy, and it doesn't matter what you're playing around, especially if you are playing Heliod, where you can abuse some things. Like, they run Gandalf the White to give your legendary spells and artifacts flash.
That's so nutty.
Yeah, some ways to abuse the One Ring that most decks that are more standardly good don't include. So it really shows how some of the new cards that have been introduced, especially with Lord of the Rings, are impactful even for mono white decks.
Mm-hmm. Along with Gandalf, the Liberator Urza's Battlethopter, that's a card I've been seeing be slotted more into the 99. Just because, again, that flash piece right now is really strong.
Well, and it's really nice for Heliod because it means you can flash in your Walking Ballista wins at instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
And catching people off guards with that is pretty huge.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of decks that win instant speed in tournaments. Like, it's a great way to just steal games, right? Just win over top of somebody else's win. I gotta say about this, though, like, I'm never gonna tell a deck, yeah, you probably shouldn't run the One Ring. But I'm kind of surprised that, like, Heliod is on the One Ring and not being the deck that tries to shut it off. Like, something like Null Rod or Stony Silence seems like it'd fit right into a deck like this, but it looks like they chose the path of the One Ring instead, and I'm a little surprised to see that.
Well, those effects are dangerous because they also turn off your Walking Ballista, which is kind of the big win con of this deck.
Oh, right, of course. You can just edit that out. I didn't say that.
Just give into the darkness. It's okay.
Into the void.
Into the void.
One thing I will say about this deck, just from a Stax perspective, looking at the cards they opt to play, I don't believe I'm seeing any Rule of Law effect, not even like a... No, they do have the Deafening Silence, but none of like the Archon of Emeria effects. And then we're going to talk about Stax a bit later, but instead running a lot of the more specific pieces, Grafdigger's Cage, Soulless Jailer, stuff like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, finish a tournament game with a Rule of Law in 75 minutes challenge, difficulty impossible. Like, you just can't do it consistently.
They do still run Aethersworn in the deck, which partially because you're a very artifact reliant deck, it doesn't hurt you as much.
True.
So it's pretty much a one-sided Stax piece. But
honestly, for my personal preference, I probably would have doubled up on a second copy, like if we had one available, of a Containment Priest kind of effect. Just to treat. There's a lot of stuff that's just getting put into place, you know, like Kenan is just really strong. Other decks are playing Kenan in the main board, just flipping for wheels. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a Stax piece on the rise. We are seeing more of it, and I mean, it's always been solid, but you know, perhaps the meta's moving in a direction where we really do want that effect.
Before we move on, I do want to highlight one piece, which I think actually helps this deck a lot. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So this is really cute with Heliot, because if you lose your Walking Ballista and it's in the graveyard, you can still combo off, right? Like, because you can give another creature lifelink, it gets the counters, which then you can sacrifice or use to ping, which get other counters. So it's kind of like almost Walking Ballista backup in the deck.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that card's got a floor as graveyard hate, so like it's just good. I mean, the card is great.
I honestly, the more things that I've seen that in, the more it's like, oh, that works really well here. Surprisingly flexible card. But in 15th place, we've got Halana Timna. The lesbians are here. That is not the name of the deck. The name of the deck is Turbo Hulk, but...
Name it that deck, you cowards.
It is a Academy Rector Hulk deck. You've got Boonweaver Giant. You've got... actually, they include both Boonweaver and Protean Hulk. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's so gas. The layers.
I like it.
Wait, where's the Carador? I don't see it.
We built a better one.
We can't rebuild him.
Better, stronger, faster.
Yeah. So one thing I've always really liked is the argument between Halana and Sidar, because in the Abzan community, there's a lot of discussion between that, and I have to say I'm kind of partial to Sidar, but I do like the way Halana just makes stuff just fight things as it comes in. And so it's like, hey, I'm gonna play this Archon of Emeria, and it's gonna decimate your Timna. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, like repeatable creature removal is great in this format.
I mean, in some cases too, it could be the effect that lets you put your Hulk in the bin. I'm sure that's a very niche thing, but it's a possibility if nothing else.
Yeah, I'm guessing it kills more Academy Rectors, but yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah, Academy Rector giving you kind of a soft sack outlet. That's really nice.
Yeah. Looking at the Hulk pile too, I'm noticing they're on what appears to be that older one, right? Not like the new Samwise one that a lot of people who play Abzan were excited about.
I actually haven't seen the Samwise combo, to be honest.
So it's like the cat that makes you food, a sack outlet, Sam, and I think Grand Abolisher. Like, I know the big appeal to that combo, I'm not sure if I'm getting it exactly right, is that it lets you get the Grand Abolisher on the first activation, which gives you that instant protection almost.
That's always been a huge thing within the whole community about trying to get Abolisher on one if it's needed. And yeah, I can definitely see why that would be really interested to play in a lot of these Abzan lists. I can understand why they may want to play this combo line though, because there is a lot of resiliency with having like K-Guide, Revelark, and Safi in the same list, because you only need 2 of them to be able to do the thing.
Mm-hmm. I am surprised by how all in on Hulk it is, though. There's like nothing else. There's no other plans here.
Like, they're so deep, they're on Wake of the Dead. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. I was going to point that
insane.
out. I'm like, what a spicy piece.
Ooh.
It's like Necromancy number 2.
Facts. Almost better, because, like, almost better.
Sorry, you're saying it's almost better than Necromancy?
Unfortunately, like, because I can see the instances where, like, so somebody toxic deluges for your life total, right? Almost. And you can just show a Wake of the Dead for, like, 5. And you get back an Orcish Bowmaster, a Carrion Feeder, Activated Sleeper, or, you know, a Drannith Magistrate or something crazy.
Until the next end step, that's the problem.
You also understand that requires you to have 7 open mana.
Right? Yeah. It was 6. There was only 4.
I mean, it's cute, but let's not make it something it isn't. It's Necromancy number 2.
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to make it work. It didn't work.
What I do notice about this deck right away, too, is that it plays a lot of the dorks, right? Which you have to do in these colors, especially if you're on the OOF package. There's a conversation right now on how good those dorks are. But outside of Tymna, not a ton of other advantage. Yes, Tymna's a great piece, but I wonder how that deck does, because, like you said, it's all in on the Hulk, and I'm kind of wondering how it plays until it gets to that point.
I think its plan is just get to that point.
Yeah, it's just sit around and develop and, you know, then drop the Hulk and hope somebody else, you know, blew their load first. I don't know.
I'm surprised there's no One Ring in the deck.
Well, you're
like,
on Oof and stuff.
Oh, yeah, it does. It runs Oof. So, yeah, you can't get away with it.
All right, we've each made that mistake once. It's going to happen to everybody before the podcast is over.
I don't know. Even with Oof, I feel like running One Ring might just be worth it.
I don't know. Maybe it depends on how badly you want to get that Oof out for your game plan, yeah.
So I have a really spicy opinion that I was talking to... I was talking to some people at the Invitational about Stax pieces, but I'm gonna hold that because it's specifically about Oof that we made a lot of agreements on that about whether or not it should be even played in cEDH. But yeah, it's not like that it should be banned or anything. But we'll talk about that later.
I need to get some water. Excuse me.
So like I said, we'll talk about that later.
The other thing with the One Ring is, in a deck like this, it feels really bad to draw into one of your Hulk pile pieces, so maybe you want to kind of limit it in that sense.
It's a decent point.
Card draw just feels so good, though. I don't know. I understand why they aren't including it. It's just, One Ring is just so good.
Yeah, I guess they have Sylvan Library, which isn't a bad replacement when you're on an Oof strategy, so... It's not as good. I'm not trying to say that, but it's at least comparable if you squint really hard.
Neko, we have One Ring at home.
All I'm gonna say is, like, if Wishclaw Talisman can make the cut with Oof in the deck, the One Ring should be in here.
Yeah, I agree. One Ring is just such a good card.
So good.
Either way, I want to get to Shikobi's Spice, so let's move on to the next deck. 13th place, we've got Blue Farm, and nothing too crazy for it. But brought by Moastra.
Yeah, the only thing is it's running those newer cards, right? So Beseech the Mirror is in here. This one is on Talion.
Not a universal adoption, but a lot of Blue Farms have started to at least consider Talion. It's a powerful card, I understand.
Supreme Verdict is an interesting one.
That's true.
I don't think I've seen that in Blue Farm.
Maybe they've been listening to the podcast. Being like,
I have never said put Supreme Verdict in Blue Farm.
No, but we have been talking about how having consistent board wipes that you have access to is really good. It's weird that they're running Supreme Verdict over Toxic.
Yeah, like I could see an addition to, but you're right, that is super weird.
Well, Supreme Verdict just kind of resolves.
They're running Fire Covenant, that's why. They're running Fire Covenant over Toxic, and they're running Supreme Verdict. And so that they have Fire Covenant as kind of that same slot as Toxic. Slightly different in its like the way that it works, but a very similar tool. And then you've got Supreme Verdict as having a consistent way of wiping the board.
And there is a lot of conversation around Supreme Verdict right now. Other people have been slotting it into their lists. I think the ability to play it and not have to worry about it being countered, especially when there are a lot of targets people would rather protect right now. It's been seen a lot more play, a lot more conversation around it. I'm curious to see if that trend continues.
Definitely something to keep an eye out for. But in 12th, we've got another monocolored Stax deck with Urza.
Yeah, what is with all this monocolored stacks? Like, people know there's partners, right?
There's only the one ring.
Only the one ring.
Well, there's only one ring. How's everybody playing it? I don't like Post Malone to play that card.
He let me borrow it.
Oh, okay.
Can you imagine?
You get a piece, you get a piece, you get a piece. You got the mana cost.
So it looks like we're more TPS here than Polymorph, which is interesting because I was under the impression the Polymorph lists were not only more popular, but generally thought of as being a little bit better. Although this is certainly fine, like for an Urza deck.
I think it was, but One Ring really shifted the balance for that in my from what I can tell, because Emery is just so good. Displacer Kitten is such an amazing piece with Urza and with the One Ring, and there's a few other things like Reality Chip, just nuts.
The Polymorph list hasn't really had any attention for a while. I think even before the printing of the One Ring, people were kind of off the Polymorph strategy because the creatures were just so good to be playing right now.
Yeah, that's all fine, but like I played Urza for quite a while, and the biggest problem with the deck was finding your win, and the Polymorph list actually could do that reasonably well. Here, I think you're just kind of all over the place without a clear line to victory a lot of the time.
I'm just going to point to the One Ring again, personally.
I was going to say, as a mono blue player myself, the One Ring just fixes all that problem real quick.
And we definitely can't knock the value that Liberator Urza's Battlethopter actually adds to this list too, because you can have things like, ramp out your board state into a One Ring on your opponent's turn, go to your turn, Draftna, put it back in hand, reset it, get protection, go to pass the turn. Like, this list is nuts.
I can see why they play this. Is hold up interaction. You can hold up interaction, then drop all your value when nobody tries to win.
100%.
Like that to me is the bigger value there. But yeah, I mean, sure. There's the deck's fiddly. It's got a lot of little things it can do, and it's got a lot of neat synergies. I mean, there's the classics, right? Static Orb, Trinisphere, and Winter Orb plus Urza is always pretty good if you can manage it. But yeah, there's a lot of little neat things going on here.
It is definitely the most actually Staxy all the way that we've seen perform well in a pretty decent time.
Yeah, it can break purity under itself, and that I think is what distinguishes it.
Just gonna bookmark that list for later.
Hear me out. Have you heard about Teferi, though?
Our Lord and Savior Teferi.
Our Lord and
Savior
Savior
Teferi. Without Neko, right? I think it's time to cut the feed.
All I'm saying is your spicy picks for the top 10 list have not made it into our top 16, and mine have. Well, some of them. Either way, 12th we've got Kenan.
Yep, that's a Kenan.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a good pilot playing Kenan.
Nyx Bloom Ancient. Nice.
Well, there is actually kind of a difference in this list than some of the ones we've seen, and that's the inclusion of things like Freed from the Real. A lot of Kenan decks are off this tech, not really since it was first introduced into the format. Has that strategy really been popular? You run things like the Incubation Druid that lets you make multiple mana, Bloom Tender with that, and yeah, it's just interesting to see that again right now.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, I think you kind of lose a little bit there because you can kind of do a lot of that with one card with Basalt Monolith, which I think probably discourages people from trying to do it with 2 cards. Although Basalt does not give you the color mana, so there's something to be said. I don't hate it in Kenan.
Oh my gosh, and they play 4 different ways to go infinite with Freed from the... Sorry, 3 different ways to go infinite with Free from the Real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at Tidal Barracuda.
I was just looking at that too.
That's a card I've never heard of. It's a 4-mana fish that has any player may cast spells as though they had flash, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
I mean, this is blue, what's her name? The new Grand Abolisher. Myrel?
This is just the jankiest Grand Abolisher in existence.
Yeah, well, you're in Simic. What do you want?
I guess that's fair.
That's going deep, though.
It is. Like, giving your opponent's flash, even if it's not on your turn, is very scary when most decks want to be playing flash effects anyway.
Well, but also realize this, like, that card is pretty great with the Seedborn Muse because you can cast your stuff as though it had flash. You basically get, the ability to fully use all your Seedborn Muse mana and, the ability to just leave up your interaction and then, EOT, here's my big value piece, untap. Like, this is a little bit crazy like a fox. I think I really like this in here.
I don't know if Kenan was exactly needing a way of making Seedborn Muse a better card for you, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, does it need it? No, but I kind of like what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I still just wish it was Prophet of Crufix, but it'll never happen.
You're preaching to
Someday.
the choir. I want that card so bad in this
It's
format.
not that much better than Seedborn Muse. It's actually, quote unquote, harder to cast. Quote.
Let's not be disingenuous here.
Yeah.
You need heavier quotes on that.
As someone who plays a 5-color deck, 3 colors green and a blue is easier than 3 and 2 green.
Yeah, actually.
Either way, in 11th place, we've got a 5-color deck with Sisay.
I just keep liking this deck more and more. And I mean, yeah, I think we're starting to kind of see a little bit of standardization too. Like, this looks pretty familiar. I'm not sure I love like every new addition to the deck. I'm a little iffy on Niambi, but like Sisay's gotten to the point where like I'm really liking it. It's very streamlined. You've got the 5-color good stuff. You've got the ability to pull combos out with your commander. You're an amazing Dockside Extortionist combo deck. Like, I think this one's going to be around for a while.
Oh yeah, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, there is one new card in here that I want to get people's opinions on. It's going to be showing up in later lists that we're looking at. But what are people's thoughts about Flesh Duplicate? For those of you who don't know, Flesh Duplicate's a new card from the Doctor Who set. It's weird to say, like, oh, the Lord of the Rings set, the Doctor Who set. Anyways, it is 2 blue pips for a copy, 0/0. So it straight up is just a clone effect, and it has Vanishing 3.
I mean, I like the card, but I think you play Phantasmal Image first, and this list is not on Phantasmal Image.
Well, I think that there's a reason you don't play Fimage here. It makes it so if you copy someone's Dockside, you can flicker it with your own Emil. Though
Yeah.
I still think that Phyrexian Metamorph is better. It's basically 3 colorless, 2 life, which I think is easier to cast than 2 blue, especially in Sisay. You get to target both creatures and artifacts. I mean, if it was legendary, I could see you making an argument for playing it, but just being a normal creature, I don't love it.
Double blue's a little rough, but I mean, it's doable.
Exactly.
I don't hate it. I mean, yeah, copy someone else's Dockside is nice.
I mean, this
Then
is
Flicker,
also a
yeah.
list where we're making like 37% of our mana makes blue. So it honestly, in my opinion, I love Flesh Duplicate. This list, I will admit it is a little weird in, but I think it's a better version of Phantasmal Image because of like what Neko said. You have the ability to combo with Emil. You have the ability to combo with Displacer Kitten. You can copy things like Fabro Elders or and untap them with your Derevi on combat damage triggers and make egregious more amounts of mana. It's It can copy any other legendary creature on the battlefield to help increase the Sisay count. Like, it's just bonkers. This card is insane, and it's also like the Vanishing 3 is almost totally irrelevant because the game is never lasting that long.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the Wind actually counterspell for
Yeah.
less mana. But if I can devil's advocate this a little bit, as a Sisay pilot, I find myself searching up my own dockside so often that I just don't generally feel like I need to copy an opponent's. Like, I mean, sure, it's nice that you can do that,
Mhm.
but like when I play the deck, I play it as dockside extortionist combo first, and the planeswalkers and stuff are a backup. So to me, it's like I almost always have my own dockside. I don't need to copy somebody else's. But I mean, it's not the worst thing to have in the deck.
So I can see your side because in place of this excuse me, in in place of this spot, we actually could be playing a more important card, Diabolic Intent, which is just a second copy of Demonic Tutor, which is infinitely better. Because it can go get whatever we're missing, interaction or dockside or whatever.
Yeah, my only issue with Intent and Sisay is you kind of need a lot of creatures on the board to win. You need like the 5 colors of legendaries. You need like your Bloom Tender or something if you're going that route. Like you can certainly play that in here, but like I have run into the problem a couple times where I've tried to, and it's been like, but there's like actually nothing I want to sacrifice, which isn't usually true of a deck running 27 creatures.
Yeah, no, Kuma has the idea, right? Like, you don't want to be sacrificing your creatures here. It doesn't feel good. You have Sisay, which is a great tutor. Plus, you already have, like, a lot of good green tutors, plus Demonic Tutor to go with it. Some people like to put Wishclaw Talisman in. You're not hurting for tutors in this deck.
I mean, that's
and
fair.
I think Flesh Duplicate is a good card. And I think in specifically Sisay, it's a pretty great card. I think it's probably the best copy effect you have in Sisay specifically.
Sure, I can see that.
But maybe it's because I hate the art for it. Not because of the artist doing something wrong, because the artist did something too right. But I don't like Flesh Duplicate in a lot of other lists. I feel like there are other things that are just better. And the fact that it is double blue pip just feels bad to me.
Fetch, don't worry. Wizards promised us that all the Universes Beyond cards are going to get in-universe treatment, so they're going to fix that artwork and you'll be fine. You can play it. They promised.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I just have to wait a couple years.
It's just going to be the same art, but like a different name. But I will say, again, I don't think there's a reason to run this over Phyrexian Metamorph. The only reason I could see an argument being made is that it costs 2 mana less when you play something like Invasion or Court of Calling. But other than that, you can just get your own dockside 9 times out of 10, so I don't know.
Yeah. I think specifically for Atraxa is where this gets more interesting as far as debate about what clone to put in. But I don't know. We'll get to that shortly because there's plenty of Atraxas in this top 16. Next, however, we've got our other deck that had a whole lot of performance in the top 16. We've got Blue Farm.
Hello, Blue Farm.
This is our second Blue Farm, and it will not be the last.
Hello, Blue Farm, my old friend. I've top 16'd with you again.
This one being brought by Rooknar. At least I hope that's how it's pronounced. And pretty solid. Standard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different. I think it's got a little bit more of a creature package than a lot of lists are running. I think a lot of lists are starting to come off of like Facebreaker, but he's still running it. So I think he's got a little more creature heavy than is usual. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty standard Blue Farm.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dragon Rage Channeler is leaving a lot of lists too, if I recall. So yeah, a couple of older creature selections, but I mean, it all checks out. There's nothing in here that's like, whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah. Blue Farm's good.
I've seen a lot of Born Upon a Wind in Blue Farm. That's probably the biggest new addition.
I think Born is slowly creeping into more and more decks, and the more I see it played, the more I think that might be correct.
Yeah, it's cracked. It's such a good card.
It gives you flash, but it also draws you a card. Like, just drawing the card itself is so good. I love that portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a floor of cycling for 2 mana, and like I wasn't initially a big fan of this card, but then I remembered like, oh yeah, me and my instant speed wins. I do like instant speed wins, and this does allow it. Like, I mean, if you're trying to draw a bunch of cards with Necropotence and then cast that, I think that's a little cute. But I mean, just flashing in a Thasos Oracle, on top of someone else's combo is a perfectly legitimate way to use that card.
It's a lot like Dress Down in the fact that its worst possible outcome is still not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is never a worthless card for you.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's running Think Twice in their deck, but like, if that's the worst your card can be, it's not too terrible.
I just thought about this, but this is Wizards' response to Flash players whining and crying for the past 2-3 years about not being able to play the card anymore. Here, you dirty Flash players. Here you go. Play it instant speed with something else.
Sir, I knew Flash, and you are not Flash.
Hey, look, how close are we going to creep to the line, Like,
that's not all that close. Flash was just like, play your Oracle for the same amount of mana at instant speed. This doubles the cost of your Oracle.
Oh, 100%. I'm just poking the bear. It feels so fun, though.
For real. Oh, but enough bear poking. We move on to our next list with Shalayan Halar.
I mean, this is the one I think it is, right?
It's the Naya list that can combo off in like 3 different ways with
I
one
just
card.
gotta throw up my hands and say, I guess people are gonna top 16 with Naya against all odds. It's just gonna happen, I guess. I can't explain it anymore.
I like Invasion of Gobakhan. That's a cool card.
I don't even. I was having to read that because I've never heard of that. Like, I know a lot of invasions came out, and it's like most of them were just either only standard relevant or even only draft relevant.
Mm-hmm.
We have Thoughtseize at home.
This I only thought was draft relevant, not even standard relevant, but apparently.
So for those that don't know, Invasion of Gobakhan says when it enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand, and you may exile a non-land card from it. You may, for as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it, but it costs 2 more to cast this way. It's absolutely Thoughtseize at home. I swear. Kuma hit that nail on the head.
Well, it's more than just Thoughtseize, right? Yes, it's Thoughtseize, but the back is actually relevant to Light Shield Array. Not only does it let you put a counter on something, which could be a piece to get your combo going, it also lets you sacrifice it so that you can give your creatures hexproof and indestructible, which are all the things this deck really wants to do, so it kind of checks a lot of boxes.
Surprisingly,
I don't know,
right?
though. Like when the 2 biggest board wipes are Psych Rift and Toxic Deluge, hexproof and indestructible are kind of.
Oh, and what's bonkers is it comes in with only 3 counters, so your commander answers it immediately and enables immediately. That's nuts.
Oh, that is cute.
It is. And to your point, Kuma, I think the hexproof would probably be more relevant because when you get your combo on field, the only thing that can stop you is spot removal at instant speed. So being able to stop a Swords or an Abrupt Decay has its merits.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just, if I'm running something like that, usually I'm trying to protect the whole team. If I want to stop spot removal, I've got Veil of Summer. I mean, I guess you can run multiple pieces. Like, that's
This
fair.
gives
that's
you
fair. It's just...
another slightly worse Veil of Summer that is also a significantly worse Thoughtseize.
But you get it all in one for the low price of 1 and a white.
Yeah.
And the counter portion, too, is even, like, really good. Just end step, you play, what is it, the Red Terror, and then you put a counter on it, it deals damage, and you get your combo going that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of combos and synergy in here for sure.
If they run Lauren's Escape, which is the 1 white instant that gives target artifact or creature hexproof and indestructible, like, if they run that, running this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're really loading up on the protect my creature from removal pieces, probably a little bit more than I would think they actually need to. Like, I can't imagine Shalayan Halar as a magnet for removal.
No, but the Red Terror is.
Yeah. Heliot, too.
Man, they really missed the opportunity to call that card the Red Scare.
No, but once Shalai and Halar presents a threat, it is we need to remove this right now, otherwise the game is over.
I don't know. I just feel like I can't imagine sitting at a table with this deck and then everybody just throwing all the removal at it constantly, and the pilot being like, man, I wish I had Lauren's Escape right now. I mean, clearly they did well with it, so they must know something I don't. Like, I run about this much creature protection in like my casual Ayula Queen of the Bears deck, because like if Ayula ever dies, you're just back at like step 1. I don't think that's completely true for Shalai and Halar. You can lose stuff and still be okay. Unlike my janky bear casual deck.
You would have a bear deck.
Of course I would have a bear deck.
I like that's the takeaway from all that.
For my birthday, I literally got a trip behind the scenes at the local zoo to hang with the bears. Like, I am psyched about that. I'm doing that in a couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ooh. Sick. And on that note, we move on to Atraxa.
Not so sick. No, Atraxa is good.
Oh, she's super sick. She's got that Phyresis something fierce.
The one thing for this list is it runs Subtlety, which is an interesting include. Subtlety and Solitude are both in this. I guess it's because they're creatures that increase what you can hit off your Atraxa while also being interaction. But
yeah, and I mean, you can cast it for free, which is nice when you have too many cards and not enough mana.
I mean, even with that, it still feels... I mean, it's not bad by any means. I just don't know if this is going to be the new hotness.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's probably too cute. But, I mean, it does neat things with Food Chain, too. You cast it, you get the effect, response to the evoke trigger, make 5 mana. Like, it's adorable. It's absolutely adorable.
Nice.
I don't think this is the future of Atraxa whatsoever, though. Yeah, I agree.
Nah, it's just a cute thing that helps climb the chain.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that this list runs both Talion and Adnaz.
Oh yeah, Adnaz, and with there being so many high cost creatures and stuff like that we've just been talking about, is insane.
I was not expecting this to be in Adnaz list.
Yeah, the
I
average
wasn't
mana value
either.
I'm looking is 1.44 with lands. Without not including Adnaz, the average mana value in this deck is 1.41. That's on the high side. I mean, you can still manage it, but that's getting close to the point where you're like, is this really what I want to be doing?
I mean, I am Mr. Adnaz, and I'm questioning Adnaz included in this deck.
Yeah, did we just have a big conversation on whether or not Adnaz belongs in this deck? And I think we were like starting to wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Talion and One Ring just shifted a little bit, where Adnaz is like, people even before those cards became staples were not running Adnaz, and I think that was a mistake. Now I'm not so sure.
I would much rather, and this is kind of a new opinion that I've been informed of that I should have, is that I've been more akin to cards like Dramatic Reversal, so that way I can untap my One Ring again and then tap it. Also, just being allowed to ramp for it's a ramp spell for 2 mana for everything you have on board, you know. And with a list like this, having a bunch of artifacts, it's just beneficial. You can double stack your Wishclaw Talismans like that if you need it.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's cute.
Yeah, like, Dramatic Reversal is a real cute card once you start putting it in.
Yeah, I think the card has some new legroom with the One Ring. I don't know if I love it in Atraxa, but the deck's still trying new things, so why not Dramatic Reversal?
Why not? It's such a good card.
Why not? Mm-hmm.
You could ramp out off of Born Upon a Wind, and then Dramatic Reversal, untap everything you just put into play. Keep ramping out Adnaz. Just saying.
Hey.
Man, you're running a whole lot of stuff in your Atraxa list.
Hey, look,
what are you cutting?
I just listed all the stuff that's in this list. What do you mean? They're playing it all. We have the beans.
But yeah, that's Eric bringing Atraxa. And while there's some interesting choices, I don't think it's bad. And I mean, it's Atraxa. How bad can you be?
Mm-hmm. I mean, good enough to make the top 16.
Yeah. Top 8.
Top 8.
3 times.
Yeah, this is not the last time we'll see Atraxa. Obviously, the other Atraxas will have their own variations. Atraxa has a lot of choice, I'll say, in your deck building. But yeah, 3 Atraxas in the top 8. Our next list, however, not Atraxa. Number 7, we've got Obnix.
My boy.
Kingpin. Who you call him? Larry.
Larry?
Who you calling Pinhead Larry? I might have cut out a little bit.
No, it's just Larry now.
Larry.
That's what I think of every time I see this card is SpongeBob and Patrick. Who you calling Pinhead?
I'm Dirty Dan.
I like this deck. I'm glad to see it do well. Like it's such a neat deck, and you get so much value out of the commander. And like my favorite kinds of decks in this format, I had a soft spot for decks that just run a bunch of like really weird, obscure cards that are like only good with this commander. And that's definitely Nixilis Kingpin. Like I played Edric for forever. That's like the poster child for cards you will only ever see in this deck only.
Dude, Cataract Parasite is the craziest thing in Obnix.
Yeah.
Garbage card anywhere else, but in Obnix, Cataract Parasite's nuts.
It's
It
like
is.
1 mana Ancestral Recall every turn. It's crazy.
Not on the Adnos, but on Bolas, Citadel, and Aetherflux, which fair.
Also got the Soul Cauldron here too.
Yeah, which is honestly a little bit interesting.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of activated abilities here to like really abuse. I guess maybe it's just graveyard hate.
Well, this deck is also running Walking Ballista, so maybe you can do some cute things there. So, I don't know.
Hashtag just walking ballista things. I mean, yeah, Nixilis puts about a zillion +1 counters on himself. Like, so you can give Yob like the walking ballista ability. And oh wait, that's a combo, isn't it?
It is. I don't know if it's a combo. I don't know if you can get.
Oh,
it is. You're right.
Yeah, it
deals the
right?
damage.
Because
Yeah.
it deals damage while removing a counter, gets another counter on himself. Nixilis, Soul Cauldron, and Ballista literally machine guns the table. Holy
that's so cool.
That's lovely.
Stop. I can only get so erect. This is ridiculous.
That's nuts. That's awesome. I love it.
I was like, okay, yeah, it's a pretty solid card. And it's like Walking Ballista, that's cute, and it's like not bad together. But no, you just win.
I was kind of thinking, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. You get your Face Breaker activation. You know, you get a little bit of value, and you fall off your commander or something. No, yeah, that's bonkers.
No, it's a win combo.
It's a win combo.
Yeah, that's really nice. Kuma has this. Jacoby has Urza. What are we gonna get? Fetch.
Save this for later.
I don't know, but our next list we've got is Dom on the Icrom. I mean, Dom just keeps doing it. I don't see anyone else playing Icrom, but Dom brings it every time, and he top 16s most of them.
So, like, I have a friend that plays Icrom on occasion, and never seen them play as well as Dom. Honestly, like, Dom is insane with this list.
Dom might just be one of the best pilots we have in the format, straight up.
Goated.
I mean, this deck is way better than people give credit for. Like, this deck should see more play. It is very good.
I mean, everyone knows I'm a Corvold stan. Corvold does some amazing things. This, while you don't obviously have the combo pieces that Corvold does and the same level of focus on Dockside just insta-winning you the game, you do get blue, which, not a bad trade.
I was going to say, this feels a lot like what Corvold would be if it could play blue, yeah.
Like, the fact that you get access to blue, and honestly, the fact that you have Culling Ritual as well, like, that's Culling Ritual plus blue with including red mana, that's disgusting.
Yeah,
just straight up.
If there was a reason to play green in Turbo, it's Culling Ritual.
I'm just saying, as soon as we get a good commander that has these 4 colors and is like a commander that actually does something, it's gonna be one of the best.
Like, excuse me?
Hold on, no. Did you guys not hear? There's a new partner being released, and we believe that it is a partner. Yeah, out of the new set, there's a new set that's coming out. They announced has a new partner in it, and we believe we're getting a new red-black partner.
What?
Yeah, because think about it, the only partner that didn't get 2 pairings in their guild or whatever is Rakdos. We only got Vial Smasher, so they have to complete the cycle. and we're only releasing one
no.
partner, so it's probably going to be like pirate related or something crazy like that. But we have no idea. It's just speculation.
If they know what's good for them, it will be unplayable. Like, partner is such a mistake.
Still better than
If they
Vial Smasher.
If they print an actual good red-black commander, having whatever that is plus Thasos, that's going to be so good.
I think you guys are
I mean,
really selling Ikra and Krom short here. Those are two great cards.
Okay,
no.
Ikra Krom
Good.
is not bad by any means, but like Krom, very solid card. Ikra is okay. It has some upside, but like if we've got something where suddenly we've got consistent card advantage and mana in the command zone, I might have to make a new deck.
I mean, I can imagine like better creatures that could be in the command zone, but I mean, those cards don't really exist at the moment.
Well, there is one kind of combination that's in this color that has gotten a bit more attention, and that's Krom Rayhan. And Rayhan is being seen because of Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Being able to have it get counters right away, and there are some builds, not this build, I don't think this build would be able to take advantage of it, but you play Agatha, you play Soul Cauldron, you play like Razaketh, for example, and all of a sudden Rayhan is a Razaketh.
That's nuts.
Cheeky. I'm not sure it's better than this, but that is a cute combo. That's something to potentially have some brewing for.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. It's a different brew, but it did top 16 a tournament at LotusCon, actually.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
We'll have to check out that deck list soon.
Just save that one for later.
I'm just waiting for Atraxa to be printed in these colors.
Gosh.
Speaking of Atraxa.
We've got it again. Atraxa at 5th place this time.
Oh no. Punny Name broke up with Atraxa. Or Punny Name broke up with Wounded.
Broke up with Wounded, apparently.
I broke up with Wounded after he played Ty and Dib.
I didn't even know they were dating. How sad. Last we heard, Punny wanted Wounded to notice him. Now they're together. Now they're apart.
It's been a whole roller coaster of romance between the two of them.
Just gotta watch we don't turn a yandere here.
Punny Name, at this point, the top Atraxa player in the format, I'd say. Didn't make it to top 4, but did get 17 points. So across the 5 Swiss rounds, that's 3 wins and 2 draws.
Now, this is a list that likes its clones. Like, this one's got your favorite fetch. We got the Flesh Duplicate here. We also have the Fan Image, and we also have the Metamorph. Like, we're all about copying Atraxas here.
The only clone it's not on is Imposter Mech.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Which, because it doesn't copy your Atraxa. It copies your opponent's Atraxa, which they're not playing.
Unless they copy your Atraxa, and it's a whole bunch of mind games at that point.
Stop copying me. Stop copying me. Stop copying me.
Giga Brain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad to say I probably should put Flesh Duplicate into my Atraxa list.
Gas.
And cut my Imposter
There
Mech.
are a lot of great card alters in this community fetch. Like, I'm sure you can fix that up.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be legal in Chaos tournaments. We need another charity event to have a Flesh Duplicate altar so we can have a legally playable or I have to wait a few years and hopefully Magic does a good one for me.
Well, Fetch, you also cast, so you're not going to be playing much.
Well, yeah, but I play in the league sometimes.
True.
I'm noticing no Adnos here, so like it looks like Punny Name has definitely moved on. And yeah, if you got like Beseech the Mirror and Culling Ritual and Hullbreaker Horror and some of this, like, yeah, I think you want to move on.
Yeah, Punny's been off of Adnos for a while. I think the Hullbreaker is a relatively new include, running Hullbreaker over pretty much Hullbreaker over what's Talion.
Yeah, I mean, Hullbreaker and clones, like, you just play any spell, bounce your Flesh Duplicate, replay your Flesh Duplicate, make another Atraxa, repeat until dead.
Yeah.
Like, it makes the Atraxa lines dead simple once it's out.
Well, not only
or even you clone the Hullbreaker Horror, and then you get, like, 2 triggers every time you cast, and you can get into all sorts of trouble that way.
Well, it also does things with the Fairy and Kitten, and, like, it's Not like the same level of busted, but it is a combo piece as well.
Interesting way to take the deck. I don't think I don't dislike it or anything.
One other big thing, Eldritch Evolution with Atraxa just gets Hullbreaker Horror.
Yeah, it does, definitely does. I mean, then you got to pay 9 for her, but I suppose that's not out of the question.
When you've got a Hullbreaker Horror, it becomes a lot easier.
It does.
It can be for sure, yeah.
What I like about the Hellbreaker Horror is that it's almost like another win con for the deck. It doesn't win you the game straight up, but it makes it so you're not just reliant on the Thasos Oracle, which I think was kind of a weakness of the deck. You were either on Thorkel or Atraxa beats. This makes it a bit easier, at least.
I mean, technically, you can win by creating infinite mana and drawing through your entire deck and doing loops with either... it's either Time Twister loops or Endurance loops. But, yeah, this definitely makes it a little bit less complicated.
Yeah, but even then, you still rely on Thoracle to win you it, right? Because how do you end those loops? Oh, Finale, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I rescind my last statement.
Finale's a hell of a card.
It is.
Finale or Bowmasters also works.
Oh, yeah, Bowmasters. That ETB, yeah. No. I was just wrong.
No, you can absolutely win without Oracle. It's just harder.
Yeah.
I think there's no excuse to play Finale over the battle, though. I think because the battle dodges Swan Song.
Well, yeah, but Finale's another win con.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of an off pick.
For what it's worth, it finds humans. I don't know how relevant that is here.
Evasion doesn't boost the cards, does it?
Oh, that's fair.
No, Invasion doesn't boost, it just finds.
No.
Yeah, it just finds.
So it doesn't give you that option of a win con.
Oof.
You also can't recur it because it's on the field after you cast it.
I rescind my statement.
Yeah, like,
we're all just wrong.
Invasion's great, but like it's not Finale and it never will be. Like it's good though. It's it's probably 80% of Finale, but it's not Finale.
What were you saying, Kuma? It's Finale at home.
Yeah, it's Finale at home. For the third time, we'll have that meme. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, bringing up that Finale does get countered by Swan Song, but Invasion doesn't is actually a really interesting point, and something where for some decks it might be worth going for Invasion over Finale. I think most of them, if you're running Invasion over Finale, you're probably running both of them.
Yeah, I don't really see the deck that runs Invasion and not Finale. I see the deck that runs both. I see the deck that runs just Finale. I don't see the deck that runs just Invasion.
Yeah, the evasion of Invasion is nice, especially in a deck like Sisay, I think, but it does have its drawbacks when you are trying to loop or make infinite mana that way.
It's just one less outlet to have.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew humans were so relevant?
But we've broken into our top 4, and we're already an hour into recording, but that's fine. It's my turn to rub it in people's faces. We've got Dargo Thasos. Let's go! Dargo Thasos was on my top 10, and Dargo Thasos making top 4 here.
I mean, yeah. It's like the deck is definitely good. Like you kind of put it on my radar a little bit with your top 10 list, and now it's in the top 4. I mean, yeah, that was definitely a good call on your part. And, I think there's definitely some potential here. Like you said, this is not the easiest deck to pilot, so I don't know that we're going to see 3 of these in a top, 16 anytime soon, but
probably not, no.
There's a lot to like here. It is a good deck if you're willing to put in the time.
Yeah. One interesting include, a card that I have not seen before, Flame of Anor from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I was looking at that one too.
Mana.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, instant, and then it has choose 1. If you control a wizard as you cast the spell, you may choose 2 instead. Target player draws 2 cards, destroy target artifact, or deal 5 to target creature.
Yeah, and I mean, Thasos is your wizard, but I mean, 3 mana is still a ton. This might be a little bit on the cute side, but I mean, that is cool. It is a cool card.
I agree. It's 2 color pips too, and yes, you need to make sure you have Thasos, otherwise it feels pretty bad in your hand.
I mean, it's kind of like a braid in a lot of ways, except for you also have the option of drawing, which isn't bad.
Well,
but that
costs
extra
1
mana
more than a braid, which is kind of huge.
Yeah, that one extra mana is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I keep telling people, like, costing one more mana than another card in this format is like costing 4 more mana than another card. Like, it's a huge difference. Like, but it's only 1 more mana. I'm like, that's a huge difference in a format this fast.
Well, especially in the difference between 2 and 3, right? Because you're talking about 50% more mana cost versus if we were talking 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. Like, as we go up, it dwindles down a little bit, but it's still extremely important to recognize.
Yeah, the difference in a card costing 0 mana and 1 mana is like just absolutely massive. 1 to 2, huge. 2 to 3, pretty darn big. Yeah, like after that, it does start leveling off a little, but yeah, like that 3 is a lot to ask for a flex slot. Like, I feel like if I'm spending 3 mana, I want something a little bit stronger than Flame of Anor.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what their reasoning behind the pick was, but it is a very flexible interaction piece that also gives you card draw, and the fact that Thasos, which you're going to have out like 90% of the time for this deck, is going to be turning it on is potentially good enough. I don't know. It's still a little bit questionable, but
you could do a lot worse in the list, but I'm not convinced this is the best card in the 98.
I'm looking at the card, and I don't think it synergizes in any way, but the 5 damage does still kill Dargo. I don't think that does much for you in this case, but
I can't imagine, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least you can kill people when they try to go for the win with Thoracle.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, or when everyone complains what a filthy combo player you are, you can just kill your Tidespot Tyrant and say, okay, guys, sheesh, please still be my friend.
We're getting too close to casual here. Okay, on to our third place, a much more interesting deck, Kodama Sakashima.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Show him the tree. Show him the tree. I love Kodama so much. It's such a good card.
I have played against this deck a bunch, and I am just not impressed. Like, you know, it's great that it top forward here, but like, you're not going to convince me this is like secretly the meta in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think it's secretly the meta, but I do think it does really well into the meta.
Okay, never mind. It runs a Boro Breeze Color. I love every deck that runs a Boro Breeze Color. Never mind. Statement rescinded.
Well, you've got a fan now. Kuma's on board.
We have succeeded.
Yes.
No, in all seriousness, though, no. Like, I mean, the deck works okay, but this is... I can't imagine this is ever your best choice.
The reason why I think Kodama Sakashima does so well is right now, in the current meta, you don't have a problem with getting to the mid to late game most of the time. Obviously, you still have pods where there's a lot of turbo, but most of the time, it is not unnormal for you to get to turn 4, turn 5. And that is where Sakashima Kodama thrives.
I mean, sure, but if I wanted to play a deck that was going to cast the 6-mana commander and be extremely happy to be in the mid and late game, I'd play Niv Mizzet.
Yeah. Or you can play Tatsiova, or you can play Atraxa even.
No, I'd play Niv Mizzet.
Or you could just play a Thasos deck and resolve Seaboard Muse on 2 instead. Like, you know.
Thasos, no partner. This is how we roll.
Yeah.
But cool list nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique list, and it's one that I haven't seen in a while, so it's cool to see it make an appearance. It's the second Simica deck back-to-back tournaments that has really surprised me by making these top cuts. I think the colors are good, and this list is interesting, though, as I look at it, for sure.
I mean, if you're interested in the list, go check it out. But other than that, I don't know if there's much more for us to talk about, because there's a lot of weird
opponents
cards.
didn't really see their death coming with this one until it happened. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people were like, how does this ever win? Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the line.
It's a deck that has a ton of weird cards, a ton of one-card combos.
Yeah.
Like, one that we realized on stream, Psychic Pickpocket is a one-card combo with this, which is literally just a draft uncommon.
It's busted.
Yeah, there's something to be said for having weird unknown kill conditions in a tournament.
Well, not only is it weird and unknown, it's also harder to interact with, because a lot of the triggers come from like playing something like a land, right? Like, which means you can respond to the Kodama triggers, but then you have like Sakashima triggers as Kodama. and it just gets really hard to interact with if you don't have a removal piece right then, because you're not casting spells anymore. So you're not feeding Ristics or Mystic Remoras, really. And that's a really strong thing to do. It's one of Sisay's main benefits, and I like to see that here too.
Very unique list. Very unique deck. Go check it out if you're interested. Either way, we've got our second place of one more Atraxa here. Brought by Richter.
Pretty standard Atraxa list. Again, we've declined the ad nauseum, but we don't have the high curve of punny names list. So that's a little bit interesting. This list looks like it could definitely run ad nauseum if it wanted to. Like, the mana curve is a lot lower here.
Honestly, looking at this list, I feel like this might be the best entry point for Atraxa. Like, it's the most well balanced. It does everything well. It doesn't have anything too crazy. It's just good stuff.
Yeah, the only thing that stands out to me a little bit is the Archivist of Ogma seems a little sus, but other than that, I really like what's going on here.
Don't bash my halfling boy. I love Archivist. I don't play white ever.
I know the card's fine, but every time I play it, I draw 4 cards and then somebody wins, and it's well, didn't really help. I wish it was a Stax piece. Or every time I'm about to search, every time I'm going to search, and my opponent says response and starts tapping that, I'm like, oh crap, here's opposition H. Oh, it's just an Archivist. Never mind. Crisis averted. And if that's how your opponents feel about your cards, I gotta wonder.
Yeah, people tutor a lot, though. Being able to draw cards off that still feels pretty good. I don't hate it.
I know the card's fine. It's bad in some funny ways.
I think you underestimate how good drawing cards are.
I mean, it depends on what kind of deck you have it into. I generally tried to run it in Stax lists, and me drawing 4 cards on somebody's combo turn didn't really help. But if you're running something more like this, maybe it's better. I could see it. I mean, I'm not saying the card's bad. I'm just saying it fails in funny ways sometimes.
Oh, there are other people that are also not a huge fan of it, but I just think it's a great list, or a great card. Both, honestly.
Yeah. The only other thing I can see is no Beseech the Mirror, which I know is a pretty popular card in Atraxa right now.
I think that's probably a mistake, but Atraxa, it's honestly just really hard to fit things.
Yeah, when you're in 4 colors, you have a lot of good cards you want to run. You have to cut some good cards. And I can see not playing the 4-mana new spell that has triple black pips and requires a sacrifice, as powerful as it is. I can see being okay, I'm about to step into a tournament. This is maybe the one I don't want to take a chance on, because I feel like that card is probably somewhat high variance.
Situationally, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can see if not wanting to take a risk on that card in a tournament, even though it is good.
But I think that's enough for Atraxa. I think we move on to our finals. Our winner, Ganesh, with Blue Farm.
I heart humans.
Ganesh has been completely a very consistent Blue Farm player who has been pushing this deck for a good amount. And yeah, good stuff.
We got the Fire Covenant here too. I mean, that's interesting to me. I really didn't think Blue Farm was really on Fire Covenant all that much anymore, and 2 of our top 16 lists had it. Now, there's no Supreme Verdict here. This, Ganesh here is on Toxic Deluge and Fire Covenant, which I think if you want 2 Wraths, might be your best option. I just have a hard time with Fire Covenant in a deck that wants to ad naus this badly.
I don't know if it wants to ad naus that badly, but we've had that conversation.
It's Blue Farm. How do you not want to ad naus that bad? Yeah, we did a whole podcast on it. Yeah. Fine.
There will be an interview that is out already if you're watching this, and you can ask Ganesh how he views playing the deck. So,
yeah, what did LeVar Burton always say? But you don't need to take my word for it.
It's Marty plus Blue.
With that being all done, we move on to, before our big conversation on Stax, our off-meta, or our unofficial, official off-meta champion of the tournament, which, interestingly enough, even though this was a charity event, I was surprised by how normal the deck choices were for the most part.
Yeah, we didn't have as much spice as we do when we charge people. I would have thought, if you wanted to play something weird and random, the free tournament would be the place to do it, but we actually had a little bit of trouble picking this one, although I do really like our choice.
Yeah, there was some spice where it didn't quite perform well, like Zaxaro is one of those. There was some soft spice where it's a known pilot bringing a less usual deck, but not like an out of nowhere deck, like Sam Sapper bringing Thrasios Yoshimaru. But in the end, we ended up going for someone who actually dropped out early. Extus. Extus being a deck brought by Meph titled Goblin Overlord.
Yeah. Because of everybody's favorite goblin, the Dockside. Like, this is very much a Dockside extortionist deck. Like, there are some cards in here that let you do some interesting things with the Dockside extortionist. So Extus, because I'm sure most people don't know what that does. So Extus is it's a double-sided card. The front face is a 2/4 creature for 4 mana. It says when you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can do some cute stuff with like Dockside Extortionist and Worthy Cause, which is a old favorite of mine from, I believe, Tempest. Yeah, 1 white instant, buyback of 2, sack a creature, gain life equal to its toughness. So you get Dockside in the graveyard. You cast Worthy Cause with buyback to get it back. You then cast Worthy Cause again to buying it back, sacrificing the Dockside, loop it for treasures. You have infinite mana and, for what it's worth, infinite life. It's also got Chain of Smog combos, right? Because whenever you cast an instant, you get something out of your graveyard so that you can always be discarding something to Chain of Smog, which goes great with, say, Glinthorn Buccaneer. Whenever you discard a card, 1 damage to each opponent. So if you have Extus, Glinthorn, and Chain of Smog, you will always have something to discard to the Chain of Smog, because Extus will get you a non-legendary back from your graveyard, and you can actually just straight up kill the table that way.
Well, and then Extus is also interesting because the backside of the Mardu Commander is a sorcery. And while the sorcery is not a super crazy sorcery, it is the case where it's kind of a soft infinite mana outlet. It forces each opponent to sacrifice a creature, and then you get a 3/6 black and red creature that, when it attacks, deals 3 damage to each opponent. So technically does not win you the game immediately, but removes everyone else's board and sets up for you to win the game next turn.
You know, it does occur to me just now too that if like you can actually cast the sorcery to get something in your graveyard, then cast Extus, and then something else to get it back. I think there's a little bit of like, you have all the mana in the world, you can do some fun things that way a little bit too.
Yeah, because you can sacrifice to pay the cost for the sorcery.
You could you could Cabal Therapy somebody to get the Chain of Smog back, and then cast Chain of Smog. Oh,
yeah, this deck is just cool. Like, I'm not going to say it's the most powerful thing on 2 legs, but there's a lot of fun, neat stuff in here. Like, I think this deck is cool.
it's refreshing.
Yeah,
A lot of good synergies in here for sure.
a very unique Mardu list that allows you to do some funky and very cool things.
So, on to Stax.
I think it is on to Stax. This is the reason why we brought Jacoby on in the first place. We noticed something as we were kind of looking through the data, looking through the decks, and realized Stax is in a weird spot right now compared to where it used to be in this format. And Jacoby, being a tournament grinder who went to the in-person event and who's been talking with a bunch of top players, who knows everything going on in the scene, great person to come in and talk about what's going on with Stax. So, what's going on with Stax, Jacoby?
So, like you said, Stax is in a really precarious situation right now. With everything in cEDH getting better, you kind of want things. As we know, we want things to be one-sided. We want to be able to manipulate our stuff while you can't do your stuff. But I find things have been interesting. Like people are actually cutting like opposition agent, and that spicy take that I was talking about earlier with Collector Roof. A lot of cEDH players are starting to believe that you shouldn't play Collector Roof because it typically King makes the person that is able to remove it, or not the person that's able to remove it, but the person afterward, right? Typically people that play Collector Roof have to have some kind of ramp and stuff like that, and you are not able to remove the oof after playing it, so all the stuff that you have in your deck is now dead. It's on, especially when you have access to things like, if you're in green, you have access to typically like white or red. You can play things like Blind Obedience instead, or if you're in green, you can play Manglehorn instead, which is still like just as good because it has an ETB effect to blow up something when it comes into play. Like, yeah, it's Collector Roof is bad, man. I don't know what to tell you.
That is the spiciest take I think I've heard since Neko talked about Teferi.
No,
before you continue, we've got to have Kuma respond to this, because our old man in the booth who absolutely loves Stax is not here for your spicy new takes.
I think if I had to get a magic tattoo, it might be Collector Roof.
Wow.
Like, okay, so I'll say this. Like, everything you said is true to some degree, but to me, like, this is why you run Sylvan Safekeeper, Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes, and even Skrelv occasionally in your Stax decks. Like, I've been on the train of, you really need to be running Mother of Runes in your Stax decks. A lot of people have kind of been like, nah, you can just politic the table. You don't need that level of protection. I think what you said is exactly why you need that level of protection. And that said, I don't care what anybody tells me. Blind Obedience and Manglehorn are not even close to Collector Oof. They cannot carry Collector Oof's jock. You have to wait a turn. Oof says no, never.
Right. I feel that. But you can't play the one
and they
ring.
Even cost more mana.
But you can't play the one ring. Like, it shuts off your one ring. That's so bad.
Yeah, so all these decks that are literally built around using the one ring are now completely shut off, whereas you, who built your deck not to use the one ring, are doing okay.
Well, I don't know if you're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to play Stax.
Okay, fine. Dedicated Stax sucks, I admit it, but like...
Well, that's the thing. Dedicated Stax is in a hard place because midrange is so prevalent that midrange can just play under the stacks until they can remove them. Like, you can just grind the value easily with some relevant piece, get to a point where you can remove the stacks and just win. Now we're seeing people switch to things like Grafdigger's Cage, right? Or maybe Curse Totem and some, like, pieces that you can put in your deck that don't stop your strategy and that you can play around. You have something like Collector Oof, which turns off all effects. And that stinks for you because even if you're in green, you want to play artifacts right now because dorks aren't as good. Bowmasters is really prevalent. A lot of people are afraid to play dorks. In fact, instead of Oof, you're seeing a lot more things like Karn come into play.
Yeah.
I've seen Karn see an uptick because, again, it's not symmetrical. You can play under it. It turns off your opponents and still lets you do your strategy. And now we're not seeing Stax decks. We're seeing decks that have 1, 2, maybe 3 Stax pieces in it that they can play under that just turn off their opponents completely.
And I don't disagree with that, but like, I feel like the more the format warps around One Ring, the better Collector Oof gets, because, you know, now more of your deck is not doing what it's supposed to be doing when the Oof hits. Like, to me, that's kind of the big thing here.
Yeah, but like, okay, I am not a Stax player. I'm probably the furthest thing from a Stax player. I do occasionally splash in Stax pieces to my mid-range decks. That's very much a thing. But in my mind, Stax is only really good if it's effectively one-sided.
Unfortunately.
Even if it's not technically one-sided, having it where the effect impacts you significantly less than it impacts your opponents is incredibly important. And with Collector Roof, while it kind of does that, it doesn't do it to the same degree as example of Grafdigger's Cage or Curse Totem or whatever else.
Honestly, Grafdigger's Cage hurts most Stax decks more than Oof does. When you can't, like, Finale of Devastation, when you can't Green Sun Zenith, and you can't Invasion of Ikoria, you can't Eldritch Evolution, you can't Neoform, that hurts most of the Stax decks I play more than, oh, I can't run Talismans? Oh, darn, I guess I have to do what now? Play more lands?
Well, I mean, a lot of decks have been cutting a lot of lands, but not to try and strengthen the argument for Collector Roof, because it's really just not at the same level that it was before Bowmaster. And I think, and I hate to admit it, because Bowmaster really has warped the format into a manner where, well, like we were saying, turn 1 dorks or even turn 2 dorks just aren't good enough anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, like as a Thasos Tymna player myself, I've even thought of, because of all of the Utopia sprawls and wild growth effects and blind obedience effects that we've been playing, I've even looked at playing Sanctum Weaver because instead of Bloom Tinder, because now it's not a 1/1, it's a 0/2, doesn't die to Bowmaster, and I can still free from the real with it. Like, it's these are the kinds of things we have to take into consideration for our dudes now.
Yeah. I mean, Bowmaster's real, but like, I don't know if that just invalidates all mana dorks.
Pretty much,
And
except for Birds of Paradise and like Deathrite Shaman. Nobles and ignobles aren't really good anymore. Because like, honestly,
have 1 toughness too.
Oh yeah, but Birds is Wooburg. Like, it's literally the best 1-for-1 advantage. You almost can't top Birds on 1.
Well, yeah, Birds is better than those cards, but like, I don't see how Bowmaster like changes the calculus all that much. They all die to Bowmaster exactly the same.
Well, you're just playing less iterations of things that can die. Is the thing. And
maybe. I mean, Bowmaster's real, but like the vast majority of games I play, he doesn't even come out. So it's like saying that dorks aren't good because he might come out is kind of like,
I wish I was so
dorks
lucky.
are definitely worse now. Like, I will not say they're not worse, but I don't know it's to the point where you can't run them. Like, I'm not cutting Noble Hierarch for my deck because Bowmaster exists.
So I'll also change the tonality, because just to talk a little bit more about other stacks. I think Stax is in a summary has changed. It doesn't look the same. Like, our stacks that we're playing now are really more like Ranger Captain Evios kind of stacks. Like, hey, I'm gonna play this thing and it can do stuff on your turn, but I get to choose when it happens. And
yeah,
that kind of stuff is crazy, dude.
It is. And when we think about stacks, right now we think about the rule of law meta, right? I think that's when we think about stack decks, and those decks were getting really good results, or at least prevalent in the meta, when there was turbo, when people were really worried about Adnaz or very early breach, and the meta isn't like that anymore. We talked about that in our top 10 video. It's heuristic study, value, mid-range meta. Maybe not a creature meta anymore, as we talked about a few months ago, but drawing cards is just so powerful right now.
And one thing I'd like to touch back on Opposition Agent, because like I said, people are starting to cut this for more leaner, go fast strategies. And I think one thing that people should really take into consideration is something that like Aven Mind Sensor, a kind of effects that give the illusion to your opponent, hey, you can do this, you might get lucky. Just to try to bait people back into, oh yeah, you can use these resources and waste them in an attempt to get what you want. But that's kind of my personal philosophy.
But to that point, even Mind Sensor is also 1 toughness. So if we're talking about Bowmasters hurting a lot of these things.
Yeah, I know. It sucks. It really sucks. Really honestly, one thing I definitely want to get across, though, is, guys, let's never go back to playing Rule of Law. That card is a king-making card. just stop it, please. Like,
I mean, how are we going to go back, though? You literally can't win multiple rounds in a tournament with, like, a heavy Rule of Law deck where there's 75 minutes and then the game's over. Like, you have to play your deck, and you have to play your opponent's deck, and you have to herd cats to get your opponents to play at a reasonable pace. And you have to have a deck that can like finish the game at a reasonable pace. Like, you just can't play Rule of Laws in tournaments and get any kind of consistent result. Like, I don't think we're ever going back, no matter how turbo the meta gets. Like, you just can't. It's just too much for one person to do to manage all that.
Oh, don't worry.
No, it only really works when you're playing stuff like Aethersworn Canonist, where for your deck you play through it without any problem. Either Aethersworn or some of the creature where it's like stacks for non-creature stuff, you can play through and play your deck as normal while everyone else is having to play way slower.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
those
Like,
who still
deafening
effective.
silence is always gonna like be there because that one's fine. That one generally slows your opponents down and not you if you're running it. But like, yeah, like actual rule of law, yeah, that's not coming back.
So there was actually a card that was spoiled that I'm really excited for, and that it's really in tune to what I was talking about earlier, where Stax is kind of changed in what it looks like.
I know the card you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, this card is in German. I apologize, but it's white and 1. It says artifacts your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, and it has XX and white. Sacrifice this creature. Exile all, or I'm sorry, destroy all permanents or artifacts X or less. And
Is it X or less, or is it exactly
I
X?
think it's just X.
no,
I think it's exactly X.
Unless you're reading it right now, then go with what you said. But
I don't know. Either way, it's one of the two, and it's a very strong.
yeah, I like this card, like for sure.
it's bonkers.
I think it's better than Blind Obedience and Manglehorn, but I don't think it's a collector roof.
and it's
I don't know if it's better than Blind Obedience in all
oh,
instances.
it's a 1/4.
But yeah,
It's a 1/4.
it is a 1/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fat booty.
Blind Obedience
Get Rick
being
Lightning
an
Bolt.
enchantment has its plus and minuses for sure. But yeah, like that's what we need right now. Blind Obedience cards, like win conless Stax isn't a thing that can win consistently anymore.
No.
Now, just a moment of silence for WinCon the Stacks. That continue.
Yeah, WinCon the Stax is gone. I don't know how much it existed in the first place, to be honest, but now it's well and truly in the grave. I do love Karn as a card, though.
R.I.P. Tim Natana.
Timna Kamal. The real ones remember.
Yeah. Some decks could do it. I think Timna and Kamal could do it. Winota could do it well. Jetmir, to an extent, was doing okay, but I think a lot of reasons, not very much so the rise of creatures led to the rise of removal, and especially board wipes, and board wipes just destroy all of what those decks are trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the good ones are really hard to stop. Like Deluge, you can't really stop with all the cards that usually stop board wipes. You basically have to counterspell it, which is hard to do in a lot of these WinCon the Stacks decks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think in summary, my opinion, and which it may change in next week or 6 weeks. Who knows with the ever evolving meta of cEDH. But in my personal opinion, the stacks that people really should be playing are things like Douthie Voidwalker, Drannith Magistrate. Get you some of our Grafdigger's Cage in here, your Bowmasters, get your Rangers in. Abolisher is really good if you want the double effect, but like honestly, other than that, that's really it. Like that's
yeah. I think the Stacks decks in the format now are running like 6 Stacks pieces. They're mid-range decks that run like 6 Stacks pieces. It used to be a Stacks deck ran like 6 Rule of Laws.
Yeah.
Now you're a mid-range deck that runs like 6 Stacks pieces.
They just get to them really
Call
well.
them Stacks decks. That's just not Stacks to me. Like that's just mid-range with a couple of pieces to me. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at with Stacks right now. Like I completely agree. That is what you should probably be playing for the most part.
6 on the low end to like 12 on the high end, and you're only having those stacks pieces in to slow the table enough where you can win. Like, it's not stopping the table. You are not locking out everyone. You are slowing people down enough where you can win at the same speed as they normally can.
Yeah, you're going to
Not
counterbalance
all
them.
Stacks to a degree, but like, yeah, that's definitely where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
And even, I wouldn't call these stacks pieces per se, but there are now new cards in the meta that are trying to punish people. Maybe not slow them down, but punish them. And 2 that come to mind are Smothering Tithe and Shieldred. A lot of people are drawing
Shieldred
cards. Yeah.
I'd absolutely include Shieldred as a stacks piece. Obviously, it's more than just a stacks piece. It's more complex than that. It has upsides and other stuff. But I'd absolutely include Shieldred as stacks.
Honestly, I wish more people would play Narset Parter Avails, but I understand the implications that it has with only coming in on 4 and only down ticking. So like Crom just creams this planeswalker. it's
She does
so
come in on 5, but like
Comes
if
in
you
on
ever
5,
downtick
down
her,
take
she's
it to 3.
corpse.
Yeah. Oh, well, she's basically corpse when she comes out, because you're never not down taking her as soon as she comes in. Like, you have to get the value off of it while it's here, and then just pray and politic with your Crom player, like, hey, please don't cream this. I'm not going to wheel my next turn.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with Stax is, like, you also kind of need your opponents to be good, too. Like, if your opponents make bad choices and remove the Stax piece at the wrong time, or, they take out the Stax piece that's, like, totally shutting someone else off because it slowed them down a little, like, you got to be really cogs of that, be like, wait, no, please don't, and it's just, you have to basically play their deck and your deck, which just makes playing Stax, like,
infinitely harder.
Stax just so difficult to do, and it's like, can you really do that to yourself in a tournament? Like, yeah, if you're going to run Narset, you need to be real creature heavy.
Well, I'm definitely going to try in my next tournament, because I've been wanting to go back to Thasos Timna Stax here recently, and it's time to make people think and make their brains hurt.
Yeah, send me a list if you do that, because I've toyed with Thasos Timna Hate Bears for a long time and couldn't get it quite right. If you get something you like, let me see it.
Oh yeah, definitely rest in peace. We're putting rest in peace in. So
yeah,
it's gonna be gas.
How does that work? Like, does that affect your Tivar? Are you on Tivar, whatever you want to call it?
So
I don't think
I had it in my original Displacer Kitten list, but Tyvar it's not efficient enough, unfortunately. Because you're typically getting random pitches, and like if you have a way to get something back from the yard, like you could have done it other ways than Tyvar. So you just need that better card quality.
I haven't played Tyvar that much, but like I don't think I've ever downticked him.
Yeah, I can't. I think I did it like twice and then cut it.
Fair.
Another card I want to highlight real quick while we're on kind of the topic of Stax pieces too. Notion Thief. I think that card is kind of being overlooked. I know Bowmasters poses that card in certain situations, but I think a well-timed Notion Thief will still wreck the table.
Oh, of course.
Well, yes, it absolutely does. A well-timed Notion Thief, if no one can stop it or do anything about it, absolutely wrecks the table. But it's so much mana for something that can so easily be stopped.
4 mana.
Yeah. Like as the great poet Shakespeare said, "For frailty, thy name is one toughness."
Yeah.
But it's a 4 mana creature where it's so hard to actually play down and have it matter. Because the fact that, like, I know back in the day, Notion Thief plus Wheel was a big thing. That's 7 mana. That's so much. And it's a 2-card combo that effectively wins you the game.
Yeah.
But it's still, like, that's 7 mana. That's insane. And on its own, when you have no way of abusing it, it dies so easily. Bowmaster just obliterates it, as you said, along with basically anything else. Like, if you have any form of removal or a counterspell that hits creatures, it's gone. And there's no... Like, yes, if no one has a way of dealing with it, and you've got a ton of people doing Rhystic Studies, then you turn off the Rhystic Study, but Rhystic Study's a May.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't get the draw off it anyways.
Yep, that's why it's
Yeah,
powerful.
you know who's not a May, though, is Talion. So if people start playing a lot more Talion, I could see Notion Thief getting a little better.
I see Talion getting cut.
Yeah.
It's 4 mana.
I feel like if Talion goes up in popularity and then people play Notion Thief to counter it, you just cut Talion and run other good stuff.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything you said, Fetch. The one thing I would kind of offer a rebuttal to is that I think Notion Thieves, it's actually a lot easier to get more value from it than it was before, simply because you can respond to someone's One Ring activation. So if they're tapping it to draw 4 cards, you Notion Thief, you're getting 4 cards and taking cards away from them right away, which I think has some viability right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yo. So
Yeah, you can call him Gollum because he's stealing the One Ring.
I did that in the tournament at the Invitational. Somebody activated their One Ring for 6, and then I flashed in an Orcish Bowmaster in response, and I was like, "Hey, your whole board." That's crazy. And I think they ended up proceeding to win that game, but I was like, "Hey, I got you, nerd." If it was a Notion Thief, you'd have been crying.
I do think, though, as Neko said earlier, Stax is no longer just, oh, you have Stax decks. It's like, I will splash these huge Stax pieces into my mid-range list, and it's incredibly impactful. Like, Blind Obedience at this point is one of the most played cards in Atraxa.
It's a win con. It's like actually a win con, and I've been trying to explain this to people for so long, because but before
Blind Obedience is another one of those outlets to your infinite loops, by the way.
It's because
that's the only reason I don't hate it.
Yeah, you can just every spell you cast, you're just like, all right, da-ding, 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 and then your opponents kill themselves for you already. So crazy.
Yeah, and early Blind Obedience is just backbreaking, especially with Dockside. Like, though I say I have seen this a lot. Blind Obedience, someone casts a Dockside, all the treasure center tapped. Someone else casts a Dockside, makes more treasures, but they're also tapped. And then someone Phantasmal Images makes their own Dockside, and they untap with them all. And yeah.
I played a game with Playing with Power that was exactly that, but with Manglehorn. It didn't make their channel, but like there was so many tapped treasures, it was just silly. And it's like, well, here's what's going to happen: somebody untaps, and then the game's over.
Yeah.
I'll just point out that with Collector, if you don't have that problem,
Yeah, but you get a whole bunch of other problems.
So that's when I play my Dockside, and my Dockside is bigger than yours.
Yeah.
Dramatic reversal.
Dramatic reversal? Untap the treasures? Yeah.
We're cooking.
There's the Galaxy Brain play right there, the dramatic reversal on the treasures.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
So if you take one thing away from this stream, play dramatic reversal. It gets around Blind Obedience.
It does do that.
Speaking of, I actually have to go jam some Blind Obediences on the Mystic Remora stream, so...
Oh yeah, they're on right now, aren't
they're
they?
about to be on in like 5-10 minutes.
They're one of my favorites. They're one of my favorites. I love them. Have fun with that.
I love them. I've been playing with them for years. They're really good friends of mine. Unsponsored plug. So if you guys haven't heard of them, definitely go check them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
do we want to
check them out? We'll actually, do you have time for a Bed Wed Dead?
Yeah.
Or do you have to be out right now?
I got 60 seconds. We can do one real quick.
Oh, we don't have time. It's only 60 seconds. You get out of here.
We're gonna dead Jacoby. I mean, I got a Bed Wed fetching Neko.
Whoa!
I'm pretty sure we have a new HR department for that.
Snooske?
I just got reported. Oh crap!
You get out of here. You go enjoy. If any of you guys watching aren't familiar with them, go check them out. I mean, you could even watch the VOD, I'm sure.
Oh,
see Jacoby hopefully win. I'll let Jacoby get out of here. Thank you for bringing in all of your knowledge and your spicy takes that Kuma heavily disagreed with, more accurately. We'll let you get out of here, and we will move on to our Bed Wed Dead.
Thanks, guys.
So, for this Bed Wed Dead, we will be talking about artifact hate pieces. I mean, we just had a whole conversation about stacks. It feels only right for us to, I'll say, cement our opinions here. And we're going to be talking about Bed Wed Dead for Collector Oof, Karn, and Blind Obedience.
All right, so I'm just going to break the rules here and say orgy.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'll actually do it. So... All right. So, I mean, I was just the Collector Roof stan, so let's just get the obvious one out of the way. You know, to me, the more decks focus on artifacts, the more powerful a card that just shuts them off is. Do you run the risk if somebody removes it and wins? Yeah. But at the same time, if it was never there in the first place, they also just win. At least this way, you got a chance to shut them down if they don't have the removal. And I mean, you could also, to some degree, protect your oof. Now, that's harder in the Orcish Bowmaster's world. But to me, just the raw upside of the card, like, there are very few Stax pieces that can win you a game all on their own, and Collector Oof is definitely one of them. So I'm a fan. Like, that guy's my Frank's Red Hot. I put that shit on everything. I gotta wed the Collector Roof. So that leaves Blind Obedience and Karn. Now, in the past, I have been kind of critical of Karn. To me, I'm like, why am I paying 4 mana for Collector Roof? And I only have Collector Roof at 2 mana. I have Stony Silence at 2 mana. And I have Null Rod at 2 mana. So why in God's Green Earth am I running a 4th piece that costs twice as much mana? Now, that said, I have softened on that a little bit. You know, the fact that Karn is one-sided does give you some new avenues to open up. The fact he's legendary does, you know, funny things in my my Joda deck. And you know, he's just good. It's just another good piece. You know, does it cost more mana? But you know, cards that win you the game for 4 mana are still quite playable in this format. So while I'm not ready to, you know, replace Oof with the Karn, I do like Karn, and I'm at the point where I think I'm ready to bed Karn. Which means I am killing Blind Obedience. Now, I really think people are just too high on this card. Like, does it do some nice stuff? Yeah. But it's not really a hard Stax beast, does it? It basically just anything you want to do with artifacts comes 1 turn slower. You can still do it, but it's just 1 turn slower, right? You make a bunch of treasures and pass, comes back to you, you untap, you win. Is that super annoying? Yes, it's super annoying. But you know what's even more annoying? I can never use my treasures, period, end of story. So to me, if I'm spending 2 mana, I'd rather just shut them off forever. If you want to make the argument that Oof is easily removed, then, you know, why is Blind Obedience better than Stony Silence? Now, some decks, it's a win condition in. I don't tend to play those kind of decks. So to me, Blind Obedience is just an inferior Stax piece to about 3 or 4 other options that we have. I kind of feel the same way about Manglehorn. I like the new creature a little bit better because you got that second ability, and it's on a body for 2 mana. But I'm going to have to dead Blind Obedience. I think people are way too high on that card. I don't think it's something you just jam in 4-color good stuff and act like you did the right thing. To me, it's solid, but it's not that solid. I think it's overrated.
I am not surprised by your statements, although I definitely disagree with them. I'll come out right now and say I'm going to be deading Collector Roof. And then I'm going to respond to Kuma as far as why Blind Obedience is good. Because, yes, in a lot of situations, it's like, oh, someone plays a Dockside, it just enters tapped, and then it's like, oh well, that sucks. But if they get to untap, then they win the game. If you're playing Blind Obedience, you're not necessarily in a Stax deck. And having that extra turn can actually be huge. But there's one other big thing Blind Obedience does, and that's completely screw over Adnaz. Blind Obedience being on the field means Adnaz basically doesn't do anything. Like, you draw through all your cards, and then you can't get any mana from it, because all of the mana that you're playing is artifacts with maybe, like, if you're in green or red, maybe you can get a little bit extra. But it's like pretty much whatever mana you had when you started the Adnaz is where you're going to end up roughly after the Adnaz. And that is brutal. That being said, even though I think Blind Obedience is a better card, I will be marrying Karn. Because I don't know why, but I absolutely love that fully one-sided shutting down everyone else's artifacts and being able to use your stuff as normal. Like, way more situational as far as what decks you can put it in, but I do really love the effect. And so Karn will be my wed, and Blind Obedience will be my bed.
So what you're saying is Karn only cares about your needs. Very, very selfless.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I look for in a lifetime partner.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree with a lot of what Fetch said. To highlight the point, though, of really driving the nail into Oof's coffin, imagine you're walking through the woods or you're walking down the street, right? You know, you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden, from around the corner, you hear a voice. It's a little raspy voice that wants you to come over. Maybe it's trying to sell you something. Maybe it wants you to get in the van. But you look down and you just see those eyes. And like, if you look at the card art, you know those eyes. That man is on crack, and you don't want anything to do with that.
I'm resurrecting the oof. He's getting dread returned.
Oof.
Continue.
Right, but oof is, for all the reasons you said, it's hard to really see play right now because it affects you as well. And not being on artifacts sucks. One ring aside, there's just so many good artifacts that you want to be playing that not being able to run them in your deck hurts. And you have to be a certain kind of deck to make that work. And those decks, based on what we've seen, haven't been performing as well. I'm not going to say that's Oof's fault, but again, he's around that corner. He's watching.
I just picture him in a trench coat and nothing good comes after that.
Nothing good comes after that. Oh my gosh. Flash, collect Oof. But no, and Karn, right? Karn's a lot of metal. Karn's a hunk of steel or whatever that material is, right?
Silver.
Silver? Okay.
I think he's one of the... Isn't he like the weird specific metal? I forget what it is.
No, he's made of silver because that was the only thing that could pass through Urza's time portal unscathed.
Oh, I thought it was the one metal that is still around on New Phyrexia that is resistant to Phyrexis.
Oh, maybe now, but like back in the day when Urza first made him, he was silver. Like
it's
new
Karn
lore for you.
When Karn got reforged, that's what happened. Okay. Yes.
Well, he was silver. Now he's anti-plague metal. Like, both are a win in my case.
I forget what the... I'll look it up.
Argentum armor makes sense, I guess, but right, Karn just offers so much. And like, yeah, it's a cold winter night. You're going to try to snuggle up to him. He's metal. He's going to be freezing. But besides that, life's going to be pretty good. And not only do you get to play and use your artifacts, you also get to turn off your opponents. Plus, you get to uptick him to kill your opponent's artifacts. So not only does he help keep himself around, if he ever does get removed, you can wipe all your opponent's artifacts off the field before they really get the chance to use them again. And there's so many creatures here that can protect Karn that he's going to stick around. And he's colorless, so he can play in any deck that you want to try to fit him in. And certain decks,
for all the teams.
Exactly, right? Doesn't discriminate. A team player. And the minus is actually relevant in some cases, like Tivit. If your time sieve is Force of Negation, you can get it back now. So with that in mind, I will marry Karn. So blind obedience. Kuma hinted at this before we started talking about it, but bondage joke, kink. There we go. No, but like, it's oppressive in all the right ways if you're it, because again, it affects your opponents. It taps their artifacts, which turns off a lot of strategies, dockside ad nauseum. Yes, it may stop them only for a turn, but it does stop them, and that buys you time. While letting you have your own artifacts that you can utilize. Does blind obedience hit creatures too? Am I mistaken?
It does, but that's not super relevant most of the time.
No, but it does have some relevancy, right? It does come into effect, especially if you're like playing against pod lines, Kiki, Godo. It can be relevant. So I think that versatility is something to be appreciated. Again, kink, bondage. I'll bet blind obedience.
There we go. Which, looking it up, I think I'm just wrong. I think Karn is still made out of silver. So,
just making a better case for Karn.
If I'm wrong here, get in the comments.
Yeah, I'm old. I'm old. I know things about Urza's Saga. That's when I started playing. I was 13.
I did not expect for Karn to get married twice.
I love Karn.
Karn's great. Karn's such a reliable man.
You just gotta watch when you kiss him on those cold nights your tongue doesn't freeze to him.
I mean, if that's the only thing it's sticking to, I'm not going to complain. There's a lot worse places you could be kissing or licking on a cold winter night.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and at that point, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave your Bed Wed Dead in the comments. Thank you to our patrons. Special shout out. Oh, Neko.
I literally pulled my headphone jack out laughing, so I didn't even hear most of that.
Special shout out to Frenchie at our Felidar Guardian tier, as well as Tax Auditor, Suzu, the Exterminator, and that Mandu at our Displacer Kitten tier. Thanks so much for all of your support. Thank you for watching this far. Jeez. Sorry, I'm still... Oh, not good. Thank you for making it through this extra long episode. I don't know how we got to this point. I guess that's what happens when we bring Jacoby in. But, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.
See ya.